So in 2008, I was a major in the Marine Corps, and I was doing a little project up at the Naval War College in Newport. And as you all recall, in 2008 was the presidential election between John McCain and Barack Obama. And I think we were at a local gelato place. My wife loves gelato. And a lady asked me, as an active duty Marine, what did I think about the election? And I said, well, from a national security perspective and where I'm at in the hierarchy of things, it's not going to be much of a difference between either of the candidates if they won, because all the national security architecture is pretty much in place, and it wasn't going to be much of a difference. But I did say where the big difference is at these local elections, because you don't know anything about these people, and they can screw your life up quicker than anything else. So that really got me interested in local politics and local issues. And what's so important about what we're doing today, especially in our 250th year as a nation, is that we have a chance to really talk to these people. They can either screw our lives up or they can make it better. And we're going to have a really good chance to hear what they have to say, and we'll have a chance for you to be able to ask questions. Tracy, come on up. Now, Tracy's going to talk about some stuff about elections. And I know she's talking about the procedures and stuff like that, and I know we have a lot of questions. So our time for questions here are for the people running for office. If you wanted to ask her questions afterwards, I recommend you go up or give her a call so she can actually do one of those rare things of actually looking in the book and looking at the statute and give you a good answer instead of just coming something out of the air. So we're going to give her a few minutes to talk about this, some of the procedure sides of the elections. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me here tonight. My name is Tracy Page, and I'm the Elections Director for the county. And I just want to touch base on a few things. There's been a few changes to this upcoming election, just things I want to make sure you're aware of. So the primary election is on July 21st. Voting starts at 6 a.m. on July 21st and ends at 7 p.m. And a good amount of voters in La Paz County are registered as an independent or a non-party designated. And I wanted to let you guys know that you can still vote in the primary. You just have to choose a ballot. So you can either choose a Republican, Democrat, or a no labels ballot, and that's the ballot you'll vote for the primary. So I just want to let you know, because some people think, oh, I'm not registered as anything, I can't vote for in the primary. So anyways, new for 2026, there is early ballot ID verification. So voters can now request ID verification when dropping off their early ballot on election day at the polls. So you'd have to show your ID, and your ID would have to match. Your name and address would have to match on your ID and on the affidavit that you're dropping off. If they do match, then you'll get a stamp on your affidavit saying ID verified, and then your ballot or the affidavit will go into a different bin, and it'll go straight to tabulation. It doesn't have to go through signature verification. Poll workers are still needed, especially here in QUARTZSITE, so if anybody wants to work election day and help keep our elections on track, we would love to have you. You do get paid, not a lot of money, but you get paid something. So we would love to have you. You can call our office, or we also put some flyers on the back table back there. You can grab a flyer to sign up, or if you know a neighbor, family members who want to work, let us know. Let's see. Oh, you can vote at any location in La Paz County. So we have our vote center in Parker at the United Methodist Church, in Poston at La Pera Elementary School, upriver at La Paz County Boating and Safety, in Baus at the Community Building, in Salome at the VFW, in QUARTZSITE at the Community Center, in Cibola at the Wildlife Refuge, or in Ehrenberg at the fire station. Early voting is done at the recorder's office. June 22nd is the last day to register to vote. So make sure you do that if you're not already registered. Also, you may want to call the recorder's office and verify that all your information is up to date. So if you've moved, if you got married, got divorced, changed your name, anything like that, make sure you call and have all your information up to date That way, it's a smoother process on election day for you. When you go to vote, make sure you bring your driver's license or a valid U.S., federal, state, local, or tribal government ID, such as your driver's license or ID card or tribal enrollment card. Check before you go and make sure that your picture's on it and that it's not expired, and your name and address match your voter registration. If all those things are good, then you just bring that to go vote and you're good to go. If something isn't right, like your license is expired or you moved and you have the wrong address on your license still, then make sure you bring with you a piece of mail that is 90 days, only up to 90 days old, and it has a correct address and name on it, so that way you can use that as a second form of identification when you're voting. So those are just some tips to help you have a better process on election day. So have a great day, guys. Thanks.
Working. Okay, so first what we'd like you to do is introduce yourselves and tell us why you're running.
Yeah. How many minutes do we have?
You have 3 minutes.
3 minutes, okay. Hello, my name is Grace Hecht. I am born and raised right here in we're in La Paz County, sorry. So I'm born and raised in Mojave County, and I wanted to start tonight's off by an experience that I had while I was collecting signatures. I went up to a man in his 30s and I said, "Hi, my name's Grace Hecht and I'm running for the House." And he very sincerely looked at me and he said, "Thank you so much. I'm not in the market for a house." He had no idea what the House of Representatives was, and that was shocking to me. It was very sad that people in their 30s, unfortunately, don't have a better understanding of what's going on. And like this gentleman said, local politics is so important, but most people couldn't name who's on the city council or who their supervisors are. So we have just a short amount of time to introduce ourselves. So I'm just going to run through some things about me so you have a better idea. In the last month, I've registered 70 people to vote and took 90 kids to the state capitol because civics matters and our next generation really matters. I believe in local control, and I was born and raised in Bullhead, as I mentioned. When I graduated high school, I went to Calvary Chapel Bible College overseas, and for 10 years I was a missionary, and I went to over 30 countries, visiting countries like Bulgaria, Romania, countries that had just come out of communism and socialism, and it taught me a lot. It taught me that America is the best country in the world, and that we have socialism and communism knocking literally at our back door, and that I will hold the line against those thoughts and hold the line for Arizona. I'm a proud member of the Daughters of the American Revolution. My family has been fighting for our country for 250 years, and so this isn't about politics for me. It's about continuing the legacy that my family has bled for. I was first elected to Bullhead City Council. I'm the first person from Bullhead on the City Council, and I was on there for 3 years. Every community that we have gone to, David and I have traveled, it's all Mojave County, all La Paz County, and Wickenburg. And I've gone and met with the mayors and City Council, and over 14 of them have endorsed me because they said too often rules get made at the state and they trickle down to the city, instead of city councils and supervisors telling the state legislators, this is what we want, which is what we all want. The best form of government is bottom up, not top down. So while I was on council, I got my degree in political science because the decisions I was making were serious and affected people's lives. My family's owned a business in Bullhead for 25 years, so I understand what it means to sign the front of a paycheck, not just the back. And I was the president of Kiwanis, as well as going through our budget line by line at the City Council. And I was on the board of WACOG.
Okay, we're going to stop right there.
Perfect, thank you.
All right, good evening. My name is David Rose, running for the Arizona House. I grew up in Kentucky and grew up in a broken family, which eventually, as I got older, surrounded myself with the wrong people, in and out of jail, landed myself in prison, where I figured out real quick that wasn't the life that I wanted to live, and gave my life to Christ. And after that, committed my life to serving people. I now have the great honor of serving as a pastor. We pastor a church, my wife and I, in Lake Havasu City called Restoration Hope Church. Also have the great honor of serving on the White House State Team as a pastor to President Donald Trump, which is an amazing honor. And then I'm also the chief pastor for TPUSA Faith. Our church was one of the founding churches with Charlie Kirk to form TPUSA Faith. So I've spent my time serving. I also have the great honor of serving as the president of the Lake Havasu Unified School District Governing Board, where we led our district to be the first in the nation to ban DEI in curriculum and in hiring practices. We banned food dyes and chemicals in school lunches. And we also discovered $26 million of unreported funds to our governing board that we took those funds and gave teachers the largest raise in our district they had ever seen, because our district was hiring teachers from foreign nations. We're now hiring American teachers again in Lake Havasu. We brought accountability back to the district, and I'm running because I'm ready to do that same thing at the state capitol. We need legislators who are going to fight and not just do the things that are cutesy, but are going to do what is needed to protect Arizona, to fight for our future, and to do what is needed, especially in rural Arizona. La Paz County feels unheard. I've been throughout this county unrepresented, and I'm ready to be a voice for you at the state capitol. I've been endorsed by current state representative John Gillette to replace him in the Arizona House as he moves on to other endeavors. I've also been endorsed by Turning Point USA and several other people. All of the constables of Mojave County have endorsed me. I'm very thankful for that, and I'm looking forward to earning your vote. Your endorsement is what matters. I'm David Rose. God bless you. God bless the great state of Arizona.
All right, thank you. All right, our first question has to involve what exactly does a state legislator do? What are you going to do for us there in Phoenix? You can talk about what kind of committees you want to get on, caucuses that you want to participate, and also what sort of legislation that you'd like to propose.
Yeah, I'll go first. So the main job of the state legislator is to balance the budget. That is your main job, to pass a budget to keep Arizona funded. As you know, that has been a battle, especially with the governor that we have right now. There's been a lot of back and forth, but the budget finally got passed this week, and they were able to sign and die. So that's your number one job as a legislator. The second job that you have is to pass law, to represent your district, and to do what is best for the city or the area that you represent. So for me, education is extremely important. Arizona ranks 47th in education in the nation. That's unacceptable. I have been guaranteed by the Speaker of the House, who is also supporting my race, to serve on the Education Committee, because we must bring accountability back to the education system and fix education. Number two is supporting our law enforcement. I'm very passionate about our law enforcement. There was some talk recently about getting rid of the Arizona Rangers. I'm actually working to save the Arizona Rangers. I've been in conversation with them, and using our veterans. Our veterans want to serve. They're looking for an opportunity to serve. So I've had conversations with House leadership about creating opportunity for our veterans to serve in the Arizona Rangers, and even inside our schools. School security is extremely important. And then what else is important is our roads and infrastructure in rural Arizona. Whenever it gets real frustrating when you drive to Maricopa County and all the roads look great and paved and there's no potholes. And so I would like to serve on the Road Transportation Committee to continue, which Representative Biasucci has been on, so that we continue to have a voice from rural Arizona, and that our roads are getting paved and fixed, and our bridges, so that we don't have potholes that are damaging cars. Thank you.
Okay, so there's 4 different areas. So the legislature, writing laws, which David mentioned, then working on the budget. Constituent services is one that I think gets really overlooked. I had a man come to a meet and greet. He's a single father with 5 children, and he has been working since October, going to the DES office to try and get food stamps and help from DES. He didn't have insurance, and his refrigerator was bare. I am endorsed by Senator Hildy Angus, and she said, call my assistant. I called her assistant, and he called this man, and within a week, he was able to get the things that he needed. And those are the things, I think, when you think about government, that the higher you get, the less accessible those people feel, when really your city council is there to serve you. Your supervisors are there to serve you. This is a government of we the people, right? And so at that state level, that's really important. One major area of committee work that would be important to me is Health and Human Services. Senator Angus has done so much on that. She just got a law passed for severely mentally ill. In Bullhead, a severely mentally ill adult stabbed his stepfather in the face 30 times. He went to jail, but he couldn't stand trial because he was incompetent. So they go through all this rigmarole, and he ends up not being incarcerated, and he's a murderer. So we need people to continue this fight like Senator Angus has on that level. I talked to Sheriff Ponce today, who's also endorsed my campaign, and he said that here in QUARTZSITE, sometimes people come and they have these severe mentally illnesses and they get stuck at her, stranded, and there's no place to take them. Yuma or Kingman is the closest place, and they need help. They need people that will come in here and fight to get those people the help that they need, not stay on our streets.
Okay, the next question, I'm going to start off with some statistics here. Did I say that right? Last year, the House introduced 1,168 bills. 140 of them were passed. 95 of them were signed by the governor, and 45 were vetoed. So that's not a very impressive. That's like 9% even get passed, and even less percentage get signed. So what are you going to do as a new freshman representative to improve those numbers of getting our legislation passed?
Yeah, thank you for the question. You know, when you're from a rural area, you are always coming in as the underdog, right? We always say the great state of Maricopa, because they just have more representation than we do, because they have more people than we do. So I really respect Selena Bliss and Quan, I don't know how to say his last name, but they are a great team, and I would say it's really important when you elect someone that you elect someone that can work with their seatmate. David and I get along really well, and I know that team up in Prescott, they do a lot for their district because they're on the same page. And what he said, which I really respect, is he said, you know what, for fentanyl, it's at this many milligrams. Republicans want it to be down here at 1 milligram, but you know what, the governor's not gonna sign that. So from 25 to 10, that's a win. So sometimes you have to work with the other side to get legislation passed, even if it's not exactly what you want. If it's a win for our rural area and it keeps bringing that mark down, that's what we need to do. And that's why I believe Senator Angus has been so successful. She got a mammogram bill passed where insurance companies were saying you can go get a mammogram and we'll pay for it, but if you need a follow-up, we're not paying for that. And she worked together with everybody because it's just common sense. So there's a lot of bills that I think get pushed that are just for attention. I'm going to go up there to work to get things done. I don't care if I'm in the spotlight, I'm going there for you so that we can get stuff done for our district.
So number one is stop writing legislation when you have a governor that you know is going to veto the legislation. That's a waste of time. And I'm not going to do that. It's a waste of my time, it's a waste of taxpayer money, and it's unacceptable. And so often that happens because, you know, we want to make her look bad, like knowing she's going to veto them. She's become the veto queen. And there are bills that are great for Arizona. But we also, instead of going to the House and writing a bunch of new law, we need to fix some of the law that's already on our books. So I've been in conversations with a lot of the Superior Court justices across the district who have agreed that after the election to sit down with me and begin to look through case law that we have in the state of Arizona that needs to either be revised or completely undone and taken off our books because they're just bad laws or outdated laws. So that's number one. Number two, I've been able on my school board as school board president to work across the aisle. We're a 3-2 board. Whenever we voted to ban DEI, the Democrats on my board voted yes. Because I was able to sit down with them and have a conversation and make it make sense. And they go, wow, no one's ever explained this to me like this before. And they have voted, we have put through 6 conservative policies in our district that can be considered partisan. And they voted yes because I was willing to sit down and have a conversation and explain that. So you gotta be willing to know how to govern and build relationships and then just stop writing crazy bills that no one is going to pass. That, you know, we see that, it's unacceptable, it's wasting taxpayer money, and we got to get back to writing common sense bills in things that are going to maintenance Arizona. When we look at our state, and we look in rural Arizona, our roads are under maintenance, our infrastructure is under maintenance, we have a water issue in rural Arizona. That needs to be our focus. Those things should not be partisan issues. They should be not bipartisan issues that I'm committed to work on when I get to the legislature.
All right, thank you. Next question has to do with geography. When you look at the size of our district, District 30, from Cibola in the south all the way up to Colorado City in the north, you have a canyon in between. You got to travel through 3 states to get there, and of course we have Wickenburg in the east. And each of our communities are very different. QUARTZSITE's different than Parker, than Bullhead City, Lake Havasu City, Kingman, and all the places in between. So how are you going to support constituents' services in such a diverse and complex community?
Thank you. So for me, I've been having conversations with our mayors throughout the district. So when session is in, I will be having monthly Zoom calls with the mayor of every town and city that is in LD 30 to keep them updated on bills going on in the legislature and to have that relationship. Second of all, when session is out, I will be in district and visiting. I'm also going to be hiring a chief of staff. She's currently already on my campaign staff, and she will be accessible whenever session is in. That way, if you're unable to get a hold of me because I'm on the floor, you'll be able to get a hold of her, and she has agreed to remain on my staff and be available following the campaign.
How are you going to serve all the
Okay.
constituents
Sorry,
across
thank
this huge geographic area?
So, it is huge. David and I go almost to everywhere. We have been everywhere. I've put 16,000 miles on my car since February, and that is why I have been endorsed by the Vice Mayor of Colorado City, the Vice Mayor of Lake Havasu, the Vice Mayor of Bullhead, the Mayor of Bullhead. All of these cities and town desperately want someone to represent them. I came here and met with your mayor from QUARTZSITE, and guess what he said? No state legislator has been here for 8 years. That's unacceptable. How can you represent somebody if you don't know what they want or who they are? So I am committed to, I can give you guys all my cell phone number. It's 928-444-2896. I'll write it down for you if you need. And I want to be accessible. I want to hear what the problems are. I'm getting to know your city council. I went to the city managers meeting last week because no place, no matter how big or how small, should be forgotten. I'm from Bullhead, as I mentioned, and it used to be a small town, right? So I understand what it means to feel like you're forgotten, but I will not forget. QUARTZSITE or Colorado City or any of these small towns that we go to. So just as David said, he's committed to coming here when it's off season. That's what everybody says. They say, oh, we see you when you want a signature or you want to vote, but then you never come back. I will not ghost you as we are on our first date tonight. I will keep in contact with you and find out what you want and who you are so I can be the best representative.
Okay, there are probably several legacy issues that John and Leo were working on that they're just not going to be able to finish because of term limitations. What are some of their legislative initiatives that you're going to continue if you get elected?
Okay, so for me, Representative Gillette has been an amazing advocate for election integrity and exposing the fraud in our access system. So Representative Gillette is turning those investigations over to me. I've already been meeting with him at the Capitol, going over some of that information that he is allowed to share with me. Some of that he can't yet because I'm not elected yet. So I will be continuing those fights for election integrity and ending fraud, waste, and abuse in the state of Arizona. Those are two major issues that he has been completely focused on. He's also been focused on election, not just election integrity, but education integrity, bringing accountability back to school districts. And I, as a school board president, understand the need for that. So often we hear school districts say, we need more money, and they want to run bonds and overrides. And sometimes that is the case because rural Arizona gets less funding than Maricopa County. That's a problem that needs to be fixed. But the other side of that coin is that school districts are not properly allocating their funds in the district the way they need to be. And so we need to fix that problem. One of the first bills I'm going to be dropping that I am currently working on is called the School Board Accountability Act, where school boards will be held accountable for the decisions that they are making on the dais, especially when it comes to the finances of their district and what is happening in their classrooms. Thank you.
So Senator Angus, as I mentioned, is on the Health and Human Services Board, and that's very important to continue this fight for our mental health and just our health in general. For the last 6 years, I've been working for an FQHC, which is a federally qualified health clinic, bringing health to rural communities such as yours. I just was there in Needles this morning where I've been working to bring, we've brought 800,000 pounds of food, fresh produce to that community in the last 3 years because the foundation of health is nutrition. And Senator Leo Biasucci, our House representative, a big thing that's important to him is also making America healthy again, making sure that health and nutrition are accessible to people. And I was just speaking to Dana about veterans, and I looked it up. I was on the WACOG board, and something that the House does is writes the DES budget, and WACOG is supposed to give rides to veterans to their clinics. Well, the nearest clinic is 180 miles away. So making sure that you have access to healthcare, that veterans aren't being forgotten, and that we are solving our mental health crisis is very important to me.
Okay, we're now going to open the floor for some questions from the audience. Who wants to go first? We have it back down.
Gunny St. Germain, live here at QUARTZSITE, been here 15 years. I support our veterans any way I can. We get a lot of homeless folks through here. Actually, in the last 6 months, we had 9. Several of them went to the Arizona State Veterans Home. Others went home with their families. Others ended up going back to where they came from. So we get a lot of transient veterans here. What kind of support? I help the veterans the best I can, but in QUARTZSITE, Arizona, we have no mental health. The only facilities we have is a Salvation Army and a food bank. That's it. So everything's got to go out like you said. I've got vets who use the Lake Havasu Clinic. I got vets who use the Yuma Clinic. I got vets who use the Phoenix. And we also have vets that use the Loma Linda, California one. So transportation is a nightmare. But what kind of veteran services and how hard will it be to get a hold of either one of you? Because I don't attend the marriage meetings. I've got tons to do on the other side. So what I'm looking for is like, if we have a veteran problem that maybe we can come up with a resolution to, would it be feasible to get a hold of either one of you or both of you?
I would say if we're both elected, you should try and get a hold of both of us because like I mentioned, the constituent service that man was facing and he wasn't getting answers since October. We are here to help you get the services that you need so that they might not pick up your phone call, but as the state representatives, they'll definitely pick up ours. And working to make sure that WACOG has enough money in their budget so that you can get your guys the transportation that they need. And then fighting to bring an FQHC here, which is a clinic that you can go to that would have the services that you need so you don't have to travel outside of your area is very important. So you should be able to contact us. You should be able to, I'll put you in touch with Senator Angus's assistant right now.
All right, thank you.
So my cell phone number will always be available to everybody to reach me at any time. If I can't answer, I'll send a text and set whatever the issue is. And my staff will also be available and I will make sure that, and I will personally call you back. But let's talk about veterans for a second. Let's just be real. Our government especially our federal government, has failed veterans. And every election season, politicians come through and they say, I'm going to fight for veterans. And then veterans, you never hear from them again, and they don't fight for you. Veterans are being failed on the national level. So how do we fix that? I was just having this conversation tonight, is we need legislators who are going to fight for veterans on the state level. And the reason, and I deal with this from a ministry standpoint, the reason a lot of our veterans are homeless isn't because they want to be homeless, but they're dealing with PTSD issues. And they're struggling with depression, they're struggling with anxiety, and we need real solutions to fix that. And so we need legislation and funding that creates statewide veteran programs that can help provide resources to help those veterans and make them available to all communities in the state of Arizona. And I'm committed to that. I come from a family full of veterans. Unfortunately, I didn't serve in the military. I wish I would have. But I can tell you that I support veterans, and that I'm not just going to use word salad during a campaign and say, hey veterans, I'm going to fight for you, and do nothing. I've already been working on policy, having conversations with our state leaders on what we can do to actually make a difference in the state of Arizona and be able to lead the way for what the rest of the nation can look like. I grew up in Kentucky. I grew up 15 minutes from Fort Knox. So I've been surrounded by military my entire life, and it is important, and it's time that we stand up and start supporting them. Thank you.
Who would like to ask the next question? No questions? Okay. So we're gonna, since there's no more questions, going once, going twice. Don't let them, you got a question here. Don't let them off the hook.
Ask the hard question.
No, I'm wondering there was a water issue over McMullen Valley with Saudis coming here and raising crops and using water that needed to go to local ranchers. That was being addressed. I don't know what the status is now.
So I can tell you the Saudi farms should be illegal. No nation should be able to own property in the state of Arizona except the United States of America. It's a problem. They're taking our resources, and I want to be the first person to drop a bill that evicts the Saudi farms in the state of Arizona or any other nation from taking our resources. Here's the sad thing. When I was in Salome, I met with a rancher and talked about the water issue, that we can't just keep kicking the water issue down the road. We actually need to address it and come up with real solutions. And so I was speaking with a Saudi farmer in Salome who ran out of water. Their water has been cut back based on their population, and that's unacceptable. So he had to buy water from the Saudi farm for his ranch. That's the craziest thing. And I just stood there in disbelief, like, so we gave American dollars to a foreign nation for our own water, for one of our own. That's stupid, it's unacceptable, and I will put it into it. It would be one of the first bills I brought.
Hold you to it.
But here's the deal. We have to have a Republican governor in office for it to get passed. Katie Hobbs vetoed the last bill, and she'll do it again.
So I am very grateful to be endorsed by Supervisor Holly Irwins, who I'm sure you all know for the past 17 years has been fighting to protect La Paz County's water. I'm also endorsed by Regina Cobb, who is from Mojave County, that's protecting the Kingman water. I have to say that in my mind, there is no reason, as David said, for us to have land where we use our precious resource of water and then it is sold outside of the country. I don't think that even that should be allowed. You might hear a candidate come up here that says it's okay to have land here and then grow your crops and sell it to Saudi Arabia. I don't think we should allow that. If you are growing crops here and you are using it here, keep it in Arizona, or at least in the United States. And then for something that we mentioned at our last candidate thing is they're trying to buy these fields next to military bases and spying on us with drones and things like that. I have no idea, after having traveled to 30 countries where we would not be able to even own a home in some of these countries, that we allow countries and foreign nations that wish us no goodwill to come in and buy our land. It makes no sense to me, and I am completely against that.
Okay, thank you. We're getting more questions.
Hi, my name's Craig Cochran. I'm a resident of QUARTZSITE. One of the big things that bothers me is voter integrity that's going on. And I think we out here in the rural areas feel like whatever goes on in Phoenix is what's going to stick with us, or we get stuck with whatever's going on in Phoenix. Are there things that the state representatives that you guys are want to become are going to be able to move in Phoenix to improve and require voter integrity?
So voter integrity, I think, comes back down to the local level. Your county recorders, the lady that came up here before from your voter registration department, in Mojave County, we have Lydia Henry, and she is doing a fantastic job. And our votes that count in Mojave County, I think, are handled very, very well. Each county does their own different voting system. And even here, my friend Messina is here from Parker, and the voting machines and different things like that, you have to have observers. You all are leaders in your community. If you weren't, you wouldn't be here. We need people to go be poll observers. We need you to go watch when these votes are being tallied. We need integrity in these places, but there are certain things that we can do and certain things that we can't do. So I think having elections matter, right? Recorders are elected positions. We need good people with integrity in those positions so that we can have elections with integrity.
So it's one of the things that Representative Gillette has been working on that I will be picking up and carrying on for him. And one of the things that our former state senator, Sonny Borelli, had ran a bill that I'm going to pick up is watermarks on our ballots. That way you can tell the difference between the real ballot and the fake ballot. Because the reality is there's still a problem with election integrity. And we still got to clean up the voter rolls. One of the things that Representative Gillette showed me when I was in his office is, let's say that person A lives in the house and she gets married. She's currently receiving a ballot under her maiden name. She gets married, her husband moves in with her, she keeps that address. Now she's receiving a ballot in her new married name and also receiving a ballot in her maiden name. She's getting two ballots. There's people who are still receiving ballots from their deceased spouse. These are the problems that we have in Arizona that we must bring accountability to. And we see what just happened with Spencer Pratt, California. We must fight against it in the state of Arizona, and I'm committed to doing that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We have another question right here.
Carrying on with the last question, if I understood it right, is as legislators, what can you do when there's problems like with Maricopa County that are doing their shenanigans and everything? Do you have any control? What can you do for
So
those?
you can call for an investigation. During the 2020 election, Senator Borelli was a champion for the investigations that took place in the state of Arizona. And so as legislators, you have the right to do that. And I'm committed to do that, to fight. And running to protect elections, it all comes down to legislation, running legislation that can get passed. And again, with the current governor, it's never going to happen. For us to be able to actually secure elections and have legislation that protects the future of elections in Arizona, we got to get Katie Hobbs out of office.
So another thing that he's right, that's what we have to do, but Turning Point, I'm a chaser for Turning Point, which means I have a list of inactive voters and disengaged voters, and I'm going to their doors. There's 26 of us in Mojave County, and we're going on these doors. I went up to a door and I knocked on the door, and they said, oh, this is an Airbnb. And I was like, oh, interesting. How many of those? So working with Lydia Henry and working with Jean Kench, who is our assessor, and saying, all of the cities have to record all of these different Airbnbs. But there's no legislation that says the Airbnbs then have to be in contact with the recorder and then with the assessor, because guess what? When you turn your house into an Airbnb, the taxing rate is higher as well. So closing these little loopholes, a lot of the things that Senator Angus told me is so many things are housekeeping rules. Our technology has advanced so quickly, and so there's so many ways and little loopholes. So writing legislation that can cut off those loopholes so that all the different departments are connecting with each other, you can catch people that are being bad actors. And those are just small examples of things that we can do.
And one thing, so I'm sure all of you remembered seeing the news when the FBI showed up in Maricopa County at the elections offices. Representative Gillette was the leader for that. So he helped facilitate that meeting. He helped facilitate the raid. And so, yeah, and he did that as a state representative, and he worked directly with Christy Nome to make that happen.
Thank you. Next question.
Hi, I've lived in QUARTZSITE for 8 or 9 years. I'm not really exactly sure how to word this question, but I'll do my best. The years living here, I've worked with different business owners, and so I've kind of heard some of the frustrations, that they have, and then just being here and different frustrations that people that live here have. And because this town is small, I think there's like 1,000 to maybe 1,500 population. I was just wanting to ask kind of like what your experience is in maybe dealing with smaller towns like this with a small population in addressing, because I would imagine like that a lot of small towns like this have very similar and same types of problems. And so I was wondering like what you know as far as the challenges that QUARTZSITE is kind of looking at, and what experience you have in addressing stuff like that.
Thank you. Great question.
So as I was driving here, I was listening to a documentary about QUARTZSITE, and there's several about them, and you guys have a very interesting, very interesting past.
That's a good one.
So I would say it all goes back to elections matter, right? You have people that are running for office, and you have your vendors that come here. Your town, very much like mine, very much like David's, Bullhead and Lake Havasu are tourism based. Your town ebbs and flows, but you guys are data here that are year round, just like David and I are in our communities year round. But businesses depend on stability. And so as a business owner, my family's a business owner as well, and you need city councils that will not put heavy burdens on the vendors, on businesses, but that will be friendly. I know in our community, I've brought an indoor children's playground to our community because it's like 120 degrees or it's windy, right? So our city is extremely business friendly. You need city council members that will listen to the public and what do you want? That's so important.
So with what Grace said, it goes back to local control. Well, part of that is your city council and your mayor, and those elections matter, but also from the state level. So what can the state do for you is really what you're asking. And cutting back red tape for small business owners, number one. I grew up in a rural community. I grew up on a farm in Kentucky, so I understand what rural community is like because I came from that. And whenever affordability is an issue, small businesses struggle. So it's rolling back taxes for small business owners, rolling back taxes for communities like this, and actually being present and having the conversations and casting vision. For example, one of the conversations I've been having in Colorado City, Arizona, is they want to grow past the past, the stigma that they have of the Warren Jeffs eras of their community. And so to do that, they have to have fresh vision and a business plan of how they're going to accomplish that vision. And as your state representative, I'm committed to sitting at the table with your local representatives and making that happen and being a representative at the Capitol and fighting for what QUARTZSITE needs.
All right, thank you. This is going to be our last question.
I'm a resident of QUARTZSITE, and I've been wanting to ask this question for a while, and I don't know if you can answer it or not, but I read somewhere that California ships in their hazardous waste and puts it in our landfills, one of them being La Paz County. Is this true, and what, I mean, can we do something about that?
I've personally not heard that, but that is something I'm going to look into, and if that is happening, I'm committed to putting a stop to that and working with Congressman Gosar, because at that point, and I have an amazing relationship with our congressman, at that point, you got to, because it's interstate, get our congressman involved and our U.S. senators, but absolutely, that should not be happening. I've not heard that, again, but I will verify, and if it is indeed, I'm committed to fighting to put a stop to that.
I want to use my time. I don't know the answer to that question, but like David, if there is, I will look into it. But I want to touch on something that Sheriff Pons said is a big deal here, so I want to address it, is the BLM and illegal dumping. And Sheriff Pons said that there's only 3 BLM agents. The BLM agents are the ones that go and enforce how long the campers are staying out here. And it's a huge area. So at the state level, I am committed to fighting for money so that we can have better communication equipment. This is something we need all over our area. It's so rural, and if we could use technology like drones and things like that to take pictures of people dumping, then we could clean that up. And also, yes. So making sure that we can also try and get more money for more agents. It's not okay that our sheriffs are going into these dangerous situations where they don't know if these people, sometimes people come to areas like this because they don't want to be found. And then the sheriffs ride up on them and they've overstayed their I almost said their visa. They've overstayed their time that they can be here. And that should be something that the BLM should be enforcing.
Okay, is there any questions from our media representatives?
I'll go for one.
Of course.
I'll be gentle. On the topic of the BLM,
Yes.
state of Arizona, most of our land is BLM. Here in QUARTZSITE, we've got a big problem because those lands are tied up. We don't have enough land within our own town limits to be purchasing, so the price of our homes, our properties are high.
Yeah.
What efforts will you make, if elected, to get BLM out of Arizona and reclaim the land that is rightfully ours?
Yeah, so I'll go first on that because I've already been having those conversations. You have to have a relationship with the federal level. And that land belongs to us and it should be given to us. BLM needs to leave Arizona. I'm committed to fighting for that. And not only am I committed to having that, I've already had that conversation with Congressman Gosar, who is also ready for that to happen. I've also had that conversation with Congressman Abe Hamadeh, who is a friend of mine, and as well, I will be having that conversation with President Trump once I'm elected. Luckily, I have access to the president, serving on his pastoral team, and that is a conversation I will be having, and that land needs to come back to the state of Arizona. Absolutely.
So while I was on city council, there were several pieces of land in our area in Bullhead that were landlocked that we didn't have access to. And our mayor worked and advocated for a veterans park that we had. We're paying for it every year, and we were able to get that back and purchase that. And then also a huge, big section right in the middle of our town is now privately being developed, and Bullhead will have a downtown. So I will fight for legislation as well so that we are not having landlocked communities. This is not just a problem here, it's all over our district. And we need to be able to not just access this land to camp on it, but to develop it and make our communities more hospitable for the people that live there.
Using some moderator privilege here, I'd also add State Land Trust Department to that too. We probably have more control over that than the BLM. But it's the same, similar problem.
Correct, yeah. So having those relationships at the federal level is so important.
So Arizona is slated to have the most amount of data centers as any place in the United States. And as we all know, Arizona has less water than most places in the United States. What will you do to either support or prevent data centers from coming into our region?
I just spoke with Supervisor Irwin today about the data centers, and a lot of them with technology, the way that they were before, is that they were using a ton of water, and we do not have water to give to these big, massive data centers. Also, when they're done, they don't provide a lot of jobs, and they create like a humming noise around them that is actually bringing down property value in these places near where they have built them. So lots of negatives. However, I would go back to, this is a local control issue. So when state legislators try and come in and they say, this is what we're going to tell you to do, actually a law, it didn't pass, but the state was telling places that have less than 500,000 people that they cannot make decisions. The supervisors cannot have more control to say you can't come in here. So if it is properly zoned for that area, they are trying to take away at the state level the power of supervisors to say, no, we don't want that in our area. Well, I'm going to listen to our supervisors in Mojave County. They want to put one in White Hills. Their supervisor board passed 5-3. That was their decision. If your board says, no, we don't want data centers here, and the state is trying to tell them you don't have the authority to say that, I'm not okay with that. I want you and your city councils and your supervisors to have the authority that they need to make the right decisions for your communities. I will say some data centers are getting better and using recirculated water or not using water at all. As technology improves, we're not going to stop this race to, get more information and all that. Do we need it here in our backyard? Probably not, but that really just comes down to a local control issue.
They don't belong in Arizona, period, hands down.
They belong in America.
In the state, I support local control, but I also support water resources in our state when we're already struggling with how we're going to hold on to the water that we have. And we're going to continue to see these technology companies like data centers come and this is the first of many groups that are going to want to come and build in our land and use Arizona. And we're better than that, and I would be a big heck no for the state of Arizona. They need to go to places like Texas, West Virginia, wherever, but not in Arizona. I'm a big no. Thank you.
Now, in our community here in QUARTZSITE, the BLM put up a whole bunch of fill-in areas at one time for sale. Then it got pulled out because they couldn't make enough money. And we have a lot of state trust land here. We need housing. And we have a business that wants to come in here, a big business that will provide a lot of jobs, but we can't get it in because of BLM. They're stopping the ability for a company to come in that wants to be here and provide jobs for our community. So we need housing, we need land, and what are you going to do to protect our land within our town limits and our water in our aquifers underground from other places stealing?
I can go first. So first of all, I'm going to fight on the state level. And second of all, I'm going to go to Washington, D.C. and start setting a desk of congressmen and U.S. senators that represent Arizona and say this is enough. We need to start having common sense when it comes to the land. First of all, I'm going to fight to take it back. But second of all, sit at the table with BLM and represent QUARTZSITE and take your mayor with me in that meeting so that you have local, and some of your city council members, so that you have local representation. This is a fight not just in Phoenix. This is a fight on the national level that we have to take to Washington, D.C. and stand up for ourselves. And that's not, I can't say it's not happening. I know that Senator Borelli has been to D.C. I know that Representative Biasucci, they've been having those conversations. I want to continue those conversations, but now it's time for real results and not just conversations. So I'm committed to doing that.
Yes, I don't you guys get tired of politicians that just talk and then they don't do anything? It's very irritating. So that's why relationships matter. And having the support from Supervisor Irwin, from Lonnie Lewis, who's your education superintendent, from Regina Cobb, from different people in all of these places, having those relationships and then going up to Congressman Boza and working on all sides, because unfortunately, we have a lot of Democrats that are representing our state, but these issues are nonpartisan. They are not a party issue. We need water. And you mentioned something, how can we keep people from coming, buying up land, and then sending the water? Unfortunately, La Paz County was created as a transfer basin. And so as the water levels get lower and lower, everybody just looks at La Paz and they think, how deep can we stick our straw in so that places in Maricopa can get their water? And that's not okay. I will fight with Supervisor Irwin and the other legislators that we have so that we can partner with other rural counties that are facing this exact same problem. We can do nothing on our own, but with the people that we have at the top and making sure that you elect a good team that will work together, that will fight together. Water is so incredibly important, and if you have one teammate that is okay with giving our water away and the other one is not, we're not going to get much done. So please make sure that you research all the candidates when you vote.
Okay, we've had a lot of really good questions here, so what we'll do is we'll give each candidate about a minute for their closing remarks and convince us why we need to vote for you.
Okay, I'll go. So my name is Grace Hecht. As I mentioned when I became, I'm the only candidate that's actually born and raised in our district. I think that makes a difference because I grew up here. I understand that being raised in a small town where I was just a little kid. My mom was 43 years old when she had me. My dad was unfortunately addicted to gambling, and we lived across the river from Laughlin, Nevada. My mom had an 18-year-old daughter that was graduating from high school, and then she had me. She was at the starting line and the finish line at the same time. And she worked really hard to teach me the things that matter. And my family has been doing this for 250 years. I did not serve in the armed forces like many of you did, but this is my way to give back. This is my way to fight for our country and to fight for each of you. I hope that you will vote for me. My name is Grace Hecht. Thank you.
So you get to vote for two candidates, and I'm hoping that I've been able to earn your vote tonight. I will be available for after this for questions, if you have more questions you didn't think of. But I am a fighter. I've been fighting on the local level on the Lake Havasu City School Board. I've been fighting for educational integrity. I've been fighting for accountability. I've been fighting because that's what I am. And you have to have someone at the state legislature that is a fighter. Representative Gillette and Biasucci both have been fighters, and I'm ready to continue that fight because so often Maricopa County, they take up so much of the conversation, and it's time that rural Arizona, La Paz County, Mojave County, we're part of that conversation, and we're bringing back real results to the district and not just talking about them. I'm already writing policy both on the level at the school board and on the national level. One of the things I get to do besides just getting to go in the Oval Office and meet with POTUS and pray with them, but I'm writing policy to defend people of faith. I'm meeting with congressional members. I'm meeting with U.S. senators. I'm meeting with the people that matter. I already have those relationships, and those same relationships I'll be able to utilize at the state capitol to stand and fight for you and what your needs are here in QUARTZSITE and in rural Arizona. For more information, you can go to votedavidrose.com. I'm looking forward to being your next state representative. I humbly ask for your vote. God bless you. God bless the great state of Arizona.
Okay, and we do have our Republican Party chair just walked in, or she's been here for a while. You want to say a few things before we start? No?
I just want to say thank you all for being here. This is a great turnout, especially for our off season. So thank you guys for taking the time to meet our candidates. It's so important that they are supported and that they have good, healthy questions from all of us. So it's important that you guys get questions too. Make sure you ask.
Thank you. Okay, we're going to do this very similar to the first round that we did with David and Grace. but it's going to be a little bit different in the sense that we have 3 different positions that we have. So we're going to go ahead and start with each candidate introduce themselves, what office they're running for, and a little bit about who you are. And we'll give you each about 3 minutes to do that. So we'll start there with the judge.
Well, let me clarify, I'm not a judge yet. I need your vote to accomplish that. My name's Tom Dorsey. I'm running for Superior Court Judge of La Paz County. The reason why I'm running is our incumbent judge, Judge Kelly, died while in office, and we need to elect a judge. I have lived in La Paz County for 4 years, starting in April of 2022. I've been an attorney for almost 11 years. It'll be exactly 11 in August. That's a little bit over twice the state's requirement for a judge that you be an attorney in good standing for at least 5 years in the state of Arizona before you can put yourself forward as judge. I would say that as a judge, I'm not coming up with policy. I'm not going to be an activist judge. I know we've all heard about activist judges, and it will not be the law of Dorsey, it will be the law of Arizona in my courtroom. So that's what I can promise you. I can't promise you the result. That would be against judicial ethics, right? I gotta be neutral. So if you want to talk about my intellectual influences, if you've heard of Judge Antonin Scalia, I did have the pleasure of taking a class from him during the last semester of my law school experience, and he was very into the Constitution, as the Supreme Court Justice should be, and he wanted to emphasize to all of his students that the separation of powers in our Constitution is what guarantees our liberties, in essence. And so he also emphasized that the originalism and the black letter of the law and interpreting it as legislatures put it down and hopefully the executives sign off on. And that's what I can promise you, is that I will be looking at the law from a strict constructionist point of view, and I will be fair and impartial with the issues that come in front of me.
Okay,
Thank you.
Well, thank you very much for coming out. For those of you who don't know me, my name is John Hoagie. I am, and believe it or not, yes, you do have a La Paz County Constable. I like to Grace's story. I ran for office for the first time back in 1985 in San Bernardino, California. Hi, I'm John Hoagie, running for City Council. And you know what the first 25 questions I got was? What's a City Council? So, I'll make this real short and sweet. If you want the job of knocking on strangers' doors and handing them paperwork they don't want, which is probably why I'm running uncontested. Thank you very much for coming out. I'm open to any questions you have, and as people have told me, you're welcome to my house anytime as long as it's not for me.
All right, good evening everybody. My name is Carrie Ann Noltner. Most of you saw me here a couple of years ago. I was heading down a very different path in that election, running for county supervisor for this district. And as I think all of La Paz County heard, I lost by 3 votes. At the time, that was a pretty hard lesson, I thought. I was like, wow, I didn't expect that to happen. But looking back on the last year and a half, 2 years, it happened for a reason. So I am now currently your appointed assessor. Anna Camacho has stepped down to take care of herself and her family, and I was her chief deputy, and the Board of Supervisors made the decision to appoint me until you can all decide whether or not you want me to continue in that position. I can tell you that right after the election, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with myself. I knew that I needed to find a job. Elections aren't cheap. And I knew I wanted to keep serving all of you because I had spent a great amount of time meeting you and spending time with you and hearing about what your concerns were. And that just fueled my every day for a year. It was so rewarding, and I knew I wanted to continue that. And as Anna was looking for an appraiser at the time, a job I knew nothing about, but I knew I could learn. So we started down this journey. And since then, my career seems to be on an 8-month cycle. So I spent 8 months learning how to be an appraiser, and I spent 8 months as her chief deputy. And by the time we get to the end of this election, guess how long I will have been your appointed assessor? About 8 months. I don't know whether that was good luck or bad luck, or just the universe having some fun with me. But regardless, somewhere along the way, I ended up exactly where I was supposed to be. So if it's okay with you all, I'd like to keep this job for a while.
Okay, thank you. So for our first round of questions is, what are some of the new policies that you'll institute in your position if you get elected? We'll start with you.
Okay. I don't know about new policies, but probably enforcing what we already have and keeping the courtroom's equipment up to date. Too many times we have parties in the courtroom that are trying to speak directly into the microphone like this, and they're not being able to be heard. And that reminds me, am I able to be heard right now? Okay. So I do want to fix whatever technical issues that we have in our courtroom currently, although as a public policy concern, we want to make sure that all the parties are being treated fairly in the courtroom, and having working equipment is one of those things. So.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to make this real simple. The policy is find the address, save the paperwork, serve the paperwork.
You get all the easy answers. All right, policies. Right now, my focus is on making sure that the assessor's office stays stable through this transition period while you all decide who is going to be the next assessor for the next 2 years. And part of that is making sure that I've got enough staff and then enough resources so that we can get out there and we can clear up some of the backlog and we can make things more fair than what they are right now. A lack of trained people has been a historical problem in the assessor's office, to no fault of Anna's, but it is just what it is. And so I'm coming into it with new eyes, fresh perspective, and I've got a really good staff right now, and we're working on getting more staff. Because what happens is, and what has been happening for a long time, is that those of you who go and you do exactly what you're supposed to do, you go and get your permit to build. You get that permit, that triggers the assessor's office to go out and give your property a new valuation. But we haven't had enough staff to get through all of those permits, which means all the people who didn't go out and get their permits and didn't go through the process that they're supposed to aren't paying their fair share of it, which means you are. Okay, and that doesn't sit well with me. The assessor's office is not a sexy position to be in. A lot of people question why, if I'm somebody who cares about the community, why would I want to be in the assessor's office? I'm putting value to property that the tax rate gets applied to and you get your tax bill. But the truth of the matter is that you want more services, you want more resources, you want roads that don't have potholes in them, you want all of those things, and your tax bill is the membership for those. And to me, I want somebody in there who is going to care enough about you to make sure that your valuations are as fair as they possibly can be and you're not paying more than your share of it. So that's what I'm working towards.
Okay. Thank you. Next question has to do with the budget. And for the education of the room here, please share with us how you're going to be spending our dollars in the execution of your duties.
Oh, is that to me?
Yeah.
Okay, well, just to let you know, my salary is going to be paid by the state because for every presiding judge in the state of Arizona, this AOC pays the judge's salary, and we only have one judge, and that would be me if you elect me. The Board of Supervisors will come up with a budget for court services here and let me know what I'm going to be able to spend the money on. So I'm not going to have a lot of discretion to do that. I am going to bring up with them the technical issues I told you about earlier tonight. I'm going to make sure that it's spent on courtroom activity and resources in the courtroom and nowhere else, basically.
Okay. A quick an acronym, AOC is the Arizona Office of Courts. They're the ones that supervise the regulatory, statutory responsibilities of the courts throughout Arizona. And they're the ones that say how big the courts are supposed to be, what's supposed to be in them, and things like that. Okay?
That's right.
You're next.
You're gonna hate this. Real simple, the constable's office has no budget.
So we're basically getting a big bang for very little buck with you, right?
I'm sorry, what?
Big bang for a little buck?
Still couldn't hear you.
Big bang for a little buck?
You got a massive bang for your buck.
Great. All right, so the assessor's office has a budget. That budget is there to take care of staffing and equipment for that. The board sets what that budget is, and they set how many employees that I get. And my budget is mostly going towards training so that my staff can do a better job.
Okay, thank you. Now, we're going to rephrase one of the earlier questions from the earlier panel. It has to do with geography. La Paz County obviously doesn't have the geography of legislative district 30, but we do have a pretty diverse and geographically large county. So how are you going to execute your duties, understanding the different personalities and regions of the county? Again, we'll start with you, sir.
Okay, well, for a judge, it's important to understand where people live, especially in domestic relations cases. That's the family law, divorce court, if you will. Parenting time can be an issue for folks, and working around people's schedule and understanding the geography of La Paz County, you know, we're going to take that into consideration when coming up with the parenting plans for folks getting a dissolution, for example. And we're also going to take into account on the criminal law side of things, if a person has been violating probation and their only home is the RV park, well, that's something that's going to have to be investigated and turned around because that person might not belong on probation. So understanding those things about the county are pretty important.
Thank you.
So my job is to go into all sorts of places in La Paz County, and I've learned what all of you already know. Nothing is close to anything in La Paz County. So I can drive an hour and a half and find out that the person left 2 months ago. That's what you're paying for, and you all know, and for some strange reason, the person who left, nobody misses them.
So one of my main goals of being your assessor is to provide insight into how the government does these valuations, because we have to go to school to learn how to do them. And it's pretty extensive schooling to learn how to do a valuation. And I believe that I'm a fairly smart person, but it took me a bit to wrap my head around how it was even done. And I think it's important for all of the taxpayers to understand, as best as possible, how we get to a value and how you end up with a tax bill, because it's going to affect some of the decisions that you might make. Like if you lay concrete down, that adds value to your property. But if you lay pavers down, it doesn't. Things like that. So it's been one of my missions over the last year, along with Anna when she was your assessor, to get out into all the communities and provide information, update, answer your questions, be accessible to you when you need us to be there, and to be able to get that clarification. My door is always open. If you are thinking about doing some sort of construction on your property and you want to know how that's going to impact the value of your property, please come see me first. I'm happy to share that information with you. I would rather empower you. Like I said, the assessor's office is not a sexy job, but it's all statute driven. It is the system we have. And I want to arm you with as much information as I can so that you can make decisions that are best for you in light of that.
Okay, the next question has to do with some of the veteran initiatives coming out of the state capitol. Veteran courts are something that's very important to the governor. The property tax exemptions for disabled veterans, and I don't know how John is going to tie this in with veterans and constable work, but I'm sure he'll come up with something creative. But we'd like to talk about from your different functions, how would you work in with some of the initiatives involving veterans at the state level?
So I guess I'm the only veteran standing up here. Okay, just want to make sure. To be real honest, there's not a lot of outreach, which I would like to change along the way. As far as veteran information, I do happen to be the commander of the Blythe VFW, because it's the closest to my house. I should say that every VFW and every American Legion has a veterans representative assigned to them. And one of the things that is very difficult is that we have so many disabled veterans and veterans with transportation issues. In many cases, they can't even make it to the American Legion or the VFW to get access to the services available. So that needs to change, and I'm not really sure how many people are aware of that, but I plan to spend a little bit of time in my commander's hat addressing that, because there is a lot of misinformation. You really can't count on anything you read on the net. The VFW website has some good information. The American Legion has some good information. So yeah, that. In my job as constable, I have zero contact with that, but in my job as a commander, I have a little bit of contact with that. And we really do need a lot more outreach as far as our veterans are concerned, and I would be happy to be a conduit to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, here's somewhere where I can actually add positive news. So we have a number of exemption programs within the assessor's office. There are some organizational ones for nonprofit organizations, religious organizations, things of that sort. We have individual exemptions. Those would be for widow and widowers and for 100% disabled folks. And then we have the veterans exemptions, and there's 2 veterans exemptions currently. One is if that you are a % of disabled, then you go into one program, and that reduces some of your primary assessed value, which is what the tax rate gets tied to for your bill. The other one passed this last year, and it is for 100% service-related disabled veterans. That program actually makes the veteran's primary property tax exempt fully, unlike the other programs where it's just a reduction of your primary assessed value. This year there is an income cap on that, but there's a couple of things that were really important that I wanted to get the information out for. So your disability, your VA checks do not count as part of that income, and neither does Social Security and a few other outliers. A lot of people came into that thinking that, well, what we get for our disabled checks is already more than what that cap is, so I'm not eligible. And that there was a lot of confusion about that this year, and I spent quite a bit of time out in the communities trying to explain that. But please, if you are a veteran or you know a veteran, or a widow, widower, or someone who is 100% disabled, please ask them to reach out to the assessor's office. The period of time to apply for those programs is January 1st to March 1st. But what we do in the office is when we know that somebody is going to be looking for that information come January 1st, we flag your account so that we can send you the information, give you everything that you need in order to be able to apply for it. I have heard just as of this week that some new exemptions for that 100% veteran is coming down the pike with the budget. It was mixed in with the budget. Until I can confirm that, I don't want to talk more about it, but hopefully that will make it even easier for veterans to get into the program.
All right, thank you.
So what I'll say is I've had experience with Veterans Court, and for those of you who don't know, basically a Veterans Court is for folks for veterans who it's been alleged that they've committed some sort of misdemeanor, and a county attorney's office makes a decision that this person is eligible for Veterans Court based on their eligibility as a veteran and the crime being misdemeanor, and they're not habitual reoffending all the time. And so basically it's a second chance opportunity for that individual, and it's sort of a prosecutorial, I don't want to say deviance, but deviation from the norm, and giving folks an opportunity to get back right with the law who have, sacrificed a lot mentally and physically in their service to the country as a whole. It really interests me in implementing that.
Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to open the floor to questions from the audience. Keep in mind, not everybody from the county is here, and if you ask them a question, make sure it's relevant to their position. So who wants to go first? No questions?
We really knocked
Oh,
that, didn't we?
we have one back there.
Hi, Sarge.
Going back to the gentleman.
Wait, Gunny.
Well, there's two eligible duties, isn't there? You said
Going back to the gentleman running for judge.
So,
we only support a Veterans Court in La Paz County.
yes.
Thank you. We used to have one, and the best thing was, we get a lot of transients through here. They get in trouble. But there's drug addiction, alcohol addiction, and mental health. When we had the Veterans Court, we had a representative from the Phoenix VA down at the court during the hearing. And the judge determined they needed to go to dry dock for one of the things. Boom, they left that day. And that made a world of difference to a lot of veterans down there. Thank you.
I will just say that when I first started in the county attorney's office, we used to have a regularly meeting Veterans Court in our Justice Court. I don't think we've had it running for a while now, and I, at the time, interpreted that as we didn't have any eligible cases coming through at the time, but maybe that's something we can look into going forward.
Okay, next question. Anyone? Here we go.
So this one's for Carrie. A few years ago, I had done some improvements to my property, and it took 3 years before anybody came to even see that it had been done, to be added on my assessed value, whatever. At the time, I was told that La Paz County was way behind on that. And the effect is that people who may have needed or should have been paying more were not being assessed. And my question is La Paz County up to speed now? And are we getting it to the point where everybody's contributing the portion that they should be?
Thank you for the question. To be frank, no, we're not caught up. We are probably a good 3 years before we're going to be fully caught up. In order for me to send somebody out from our office to do evaluation, they have to be certified to do so, which means they have to go through training. And Anna ran into just a never-ending cycle of staff coming and going, so they would just barely get trained and could go out, and then they would leave, usually to Mojave, where the pay was a bit better. That has since stopped. So our pay is a little bit more equal to what Mojave's is. We've got a really good staff. We actually have 2 of them on staff that are level 2 appraisers, which takes 18 months to get to. And we have a level 3 appraiser who's my systems manager. He takes care of making sure that all of the reports and everything that we're supposed to do statutorily gets to where it's supposed to. I'm probably 3 years, if not more, just to get cleared up with the permits based on what the board's approved for this year. And I hope I can beat that, that's the goal, but that's where we stand.
This question is for the judge. My name is Michael Roth. I've lived here almost 18 years. I've been in court here more than anybody in the history of this county. I have suffered under tyranny greatly. And my question is, and I don't know if you can help me or not, but since you are the Superior Court judge, what can we do about this local administrative court, which is a local terrorist organization, has absolutely stolen all my property, has dragged me through the courts, didn't even give me an attorney last go around. It was a real kangaroo court. What can the Superior Court, I mean, we have no constitution at the local level. We have a load of crap is what we've got. What can we do, what can you do, or what can the county do to rein in this administrative court crap, which is not constitutional at all? They're doing whatever they want. So how can you help a little guy?
Well,
Thanks.
my first comment is, as I've said, as a judge, I'm not going to be my own law. It's going to have to be state law that prevails in the Superior Court. And if you have issues with a local court, then there is an appeals process. If you avail yourself of the appeals process, you may have your case appear in the Superior Court, and you may get to tell your tale once again to that person. And on that basis, I can't give you any advice, because that would be a conflict of interest. So I can't offer you a legal opinion about something like that.
Well, the previous Superior Court judge was very political and would practice lawfare. How are we assured you won't be doing the same?
Well, I guess I can tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a political newcomer. This is the first time I've ever run for anything. If you're talking about the former Judge Kelly, now deceased, his background was, he was very involved before becoming an attorney in the state legislature, and he was very involved in party politics in Phoenix at that point. And if he brought that sensibility to his role, that's probably because of the way he was trained. I was not trained that way. Before I was an attorney, I did a lot of hard work as an archaeologist, as it turns out. If you can imagine using workman's tools in a way that's mechanically least advantageous in the hot desert sun, that's what I would do a lot of my days for about 10 years. So I came to the law pretty late in my life, I suppose. I was a non-traditional law school student. I still managed to fit in 11 years of law experience, not only with the criminal law as I am working in right now as a deputy county attorney. I also had experience with doing family law and landlord-tenant issues when I was working for legal aid. So my experience in the law is pretty broad and wasn't focused on the legislative branch at all. And in a lot of ways, I feel like maybe for the role of judge, that should be a nonpartisan role, but I was required to sign up, and I signed up. And I'm running as a Republican, and as I mentioned, Ann Scalia is a very big part of my mental framework. I don't know how I can demonstrate that to you unless you get me into the office and I perform in that manner. So up until you elect me, you gotta take my word for it, sorry.
All right, Thomas, I have a question for you. As a state representative, election integrity is going to be a major issue in part of what I'm working on. And across the nation, lawfare has been an issue. Judges not making the correct rulings to uphold elections has been an issue. We even have seen that in conservative communities, not just liberal communities. We've seen that in Mojave County, where Congressman Abe Hamadeh, when he ran for Attorney General, presented a substantial amount of evidence to the Mojave County Judge Court that there was issues in his election in Mojave County, and unfortunately that judge dismissed the case and said there was not enough evidence presented, which was absolutely not the case. What are you going to do as a Superior Court judge to uphold the law, protect elections, and to end lawfare?
Did you say end welfare?
Lawfare.
Okay. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to remain neutral as the parties present their cases, and then I'm going to interpret the law, which hopefully you and your legislative branch have written clearly and concisely so that it can be interpreted directly for the people and so that the judge can make the ruling understood. So I'm going to look at the black letter of the law, and then I'm going to look at the evidence and apply it. And that is what will happen. And if, as you say, it's obvious that these things are happening, then it won't happen anymore after I make my ruling.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Don't let Constable John off the hook. Okay, any questions from our media representatives? Okay, so we'll give each of you 3 minutes for closing remarks. And we'll reverse the order this time. We'll let you go first.
Well, as I said, my name is Carrie Ann Noldner, and this time around I'm running for assessor to fill the vacancy that Anna left. If you all decide that I'm going to be your assessor for the next 2 years, you'll see me in 2 years because I'm on that election cycle. I'm doing this because I do truly care about the people of La Paz County, and if any of you have met me in person, you know that to be true. I don't need to work. I'm fortunate enough not to have to, which is wonderful. But I'm back in this now because this job needs somebody who's going to look after it, because it can really go sideways very quickly. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and I'm a fixer. So I'm going to get in there. My arms are, my sleeves are already up, and I'm already digging into it and figuring out how I can get that backlog down faster while still maintaining the statutes that I have to follow and creating as fair values as I can for everybody. That's about all I can say about that. If you've met me, then you already know my character, and you know that I'm going to do the very best that I can for you every day. Thank you.
I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm going to do a little bit of campaigning for my friend. I've dealt with the assessor's office both under Anna, who's a friend of mine, and the assessor's office can be described in 2 words: friendly and accessible. So just want to let you know that. Since I'm running unopposed, I could do a little bit of campaign. I had forgotten about this. If you know any veterans, and this is a big issue, that want to apply for benefits, you must have your DD 214. And if you know a veteran, most of the time they have lost their DD 214, especially if they've been gone for a while. Tell them to visit their either Legion or VFW we can tell them when the Veterans Administration officer will be there. I've gone through this process, trust me. I told the Veterans Office I had lost my DD 214, and within about 6 months I had it. But you have to come down to the Veterans Office, meet with the Veterans Administration officer, and they will help you get your DD 214, and the DD 214 starts the process. Thank you very much for coming.
Quick question for you, man. Just to make it clear, in the state of Arizona, the Arizona Department of Veteran Services, you do not need your DD 214. They run all that information through the computer system, and they get it for your case. I'm Gunny St. Germain. I'm the Veteran Service Officer for the VFW and the American Legion in town here. I'm VA accredited. I've worked for the Arizona Department of Veteran Services, so it's a lot easier now to get your benefits. It's a matter, everything's done by phone and computer, so you don't have to leave your home. Everything's done by phone in Arizona. I'm not sure about California, but if you got anybody who's having problems, they can use our Arizona Department of Veteran Services. It's all phone contacts.
If any of you know him, you know I'm not going to argue.
Okay, so rounding it off, my name's Tom Dorsey. Once again, I am running for Superior Court Judge. I think I've got the experience broadly to be a judge. One of the challenges of being judge here in La Paz is that there's only one judge, one Superior Court judge to hear all the Superior Court cases, which are basically all the felony criminal cases and any of the family law dissolution matters, the juvenile cases, any civil case that's over $10,000 is going to end up in Superior Court. But I have a broad background beyond the criminal law to help me deal with that, and I think that's a real strength that I bring to the position. And I also think that my philosophy in interpreting the law is consistent with the values of the community. I will say that I was born and raised in southwestern Michigan. I grew up in a rural community. It's a lot different in Michigan, it's a lot wetter. I know we're in a river community, but I tell you, Lake Michigan looks a lot different than the Colorado River. So, but I like the desert. I was drawn to the desert, and before I did my law school training, I was pursuing an archaeology career here in Arizona, and it taught me a lot about civilizations and how they develop and grow up here. And I think with that in mind, community involvement is the biggest part of what keeps a community going. I think some of the ancient communities that used to be in the Southwest aren't here anymore because the people didn't feel invested in them anymore. They sort of drifted apart and fragmented, and all of you being here today is a coming together and showing an interest in keeping the local community going. So you should be proud of yourselves, I think. But that's very political of you, I know, so.
Okay. Big round of applause for our county candidates. Again, it's a pretty bold thing to come south of Parker and see the rest of the county here, especially here in QUARTZSITE. So thank you very much. Okay, so again, this is our last round, and this is, I think, what everybody's really here for, is who's going to be on our next town council. And we have 3 extraordinary candidates, and we'll start right here. Briefly introduce yourself, a little bit about your background, how long you've been here in QUARTZSITE, and why you're running.
Sounds good. My name is Ray Barnett. I've lived in QUARTZSITE for about 4 years. My background, I was law enforcement with the Wilcox Department of Public Safety and also the Colorado River Indian Tribes. After law enforcement, I went into CPS and social services. I have about 19 years of government experience, to include municipal and tribal. When I first came here, I just kind of observed what was going on with the town. I basically seen it as a dying community. I mean, there's no other way to explain it. I mean, there doesn't seem to be any growth. You drive around town and you see houses for sale. We have a beautiful school that we can't get opened. So there's no better way to describe it. I talked with several people and they go, "Ray, why don't you go ahead and run?" Okay, why not? Never done anything like that before. So I went around with my petition to basically get people to nominate me. And I would ask them, first off, are you happy with what's going on with our town? No. The majority of them, absolutely not. So I would ask them, well, what's going on? We're dying. We have no voice with our council. We have no voice with our town. So that pretty much sealed the deal as to why I wanted to run.
Okay, thank you. Lisa, before you go, I hear a lot of sidebar conversations going on. I know they're important, but please move into the other room if you want to have a sidebar conversation so that we can hear our candidates speak for us. Thank you. Lisa, you're next.
I'm Lisa Bolden. Most of you know me. I have been self-employed for all of my adult life since I was 24 years old. I've been in the health industry. I really had no interest in politics ever until I realized the necessity to really be in politics. Because if nobody's paying attention, bad politicians will get into position and they'll do everything that they want to do. So we all need to stay involved. We all need to pay attention. We need to go to city council, town council meetings. We need to see what we're doing locally and see what we're doing nationally and take a part in your community. And a few years ago, I went to my first John Birch Society leadership conference, and someone there said, "So tell me about your local community." And I was like, "Yeah, well, you know, we're trying to find good candidates." And they said, "If you can't find the candidate, be the candidate." So I registered to vote here in La Paz County in QUARTZSITE, and now I'm finally eligible. And so I'm running for town council to try to make QUARTZSITE better.
My name is Melody Chandelier. I've lived here for 6 years now. I'm a retired pediatric nurse of 30 years, geriatrics and for social service and activity directing for 2 years. I'm a wife, mother, and a grandmother of 6. I decided to move here after gold mining and rock hunting for 30 years in QUARTZSITE. So I decided to make this my home in the last 6 years. I've always been involved in my community, picking up trash, helping out people, driving people, taking care of their animals, feeding people, clothing people. I forced my husband to do it with me, and I take part in my community now. I take part in charity work, in community services, especially in our businesses, to participate with them. I support our businesses and do as much as I can. Today I just drove back from Las Vegas because I took a veteran to the VA for his eye exam. So I do a lot here. Most of my interest right now is number one right now. One of my problems that I've been dealing with right now is safety. We have a lot of safety issues with our community. I have
I'm committed to taking care of our veterans. I come from a family of generations of veterans. Children is the number one thing for me because I'm a pediatric nurse. So the school busing our kids, I have this pet peeve about it. I see this community, I love this community, but I see this community as being swept aside. Like it's not getting the attention that it needs. It's bigger and better. Looking forward to bigger and better. It reminds me of gentrification. Getting rid of the poor and bringing in the people that have money. Big tourist attractions so that the taxes can come in so that we can generate that money to pay people in certain spots. That right there is one of my biggest issues. I feel that we are not taking care of our residents here like we're supposed to.
Okay, we're going to cut in right there and start with our first question.
Okay.
So we'll start on a positive note, and if you get elected, what policies are you going to continue from town council? Basically, what are we doing right? And what are your top 3 things that we're doing right? So we'll start with you, sir.
To be real honest with you, I don't see a lot that is being done right with the town council. But like I said, when I look at QUARTZSITE as opposed to 15, 20 years ago, it's nothing. It's dying. There's, from what I can see, there's no communication being heard by the council, by the town management, from the citizens. Each and every one of us need to have input into this town. And you listen to these town council meetings and they have the calls to the public and it falls on deaf ears. Anything that's being said falls on deaf ears. So that's my thoughts on it.
Okay, thank you.
That is a tough question. I do think that the town council currently has done they've done good things for our community. I wouldn't say by any means that they're all terrible, but I do think that I'm not even gonna say it. They're not listening to the constituents, and that seems all too obvious in how many people show up for town council meetings. I think more people would show up for town council meetings if they felt like we were going to be heard. And I really want to include the community and welcome questions and some debate. I stand very strong in my convictions. And I know that if there's something that comes down the pipeline and it's unconstitutional and a bunch of the constituents want me to say yes to that, I'm not going to be able to. But what I will do is have a meeting at my office, have a meeting at somewhere, a restaurant, something, and we can have some conversation about what it is, and I will try to show you how this is not constitutionally based and present my argument. But I will vote for that Constitution, and I generally will vote for my fundamental beliefs.
Thank you.
I'm a team player. I'm willing to learn. I've been going to pretty much a lot of meetings from different departments, a lot of meetings at the town council. I've been trying to learn as much as possible to see what is going on and how this stuff works. I'm not a person that is not able to learn. Okay, so I'm trying to do the best I can as far as learning how to handle what's going on in this town council. One of my biggest issues is when somebody does come and they have their 3 minutes of say and their concerns, where is the answer that they get back? I mean, does anybody contact them back and let them know what the decision has been made? And that is one thing that, the transparency and the, you know, accountability is completely missing. I mean, it's almost, I feel that the council is almost afraid to argue the point. I mean, safety is number one thing for me, okay? And so therefore, it's like if there's safety issues, you're going to the wrong person. I was directed to the wrong person about my concerns and never got back to me. I mean, my husband and I have volunteered for a department, never got back to me. You know, they have our slips. I don't understand who's running the community, you know, because we don't get any answers. We try and try and try, and I don't want to be a pest, but I want an answer. Either you want us to volunteer or you don't want us to volunteer, you know. We pick up trash, like I said, we pick up trash, we do every single thing. I hang out most of the time at the dog park. I have concerns about the dog park and the splash pad.
Okay, so I tried to pull something positive out, so I probably have to go the other way. But we'll reframe the question this way. Assuming you just got elected to the town council, what are the three things you'd like to see on that first agenda that you discuss when you first sit down on the dais?
First off, I would love to see the school discuss and figure out what we've got to do to get that school open. The whole idea of having the kids bus down I-10, that's one of the most dangerous roads there is. And it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when one of them get hurt. The second thing is I would love to see some new businesses come into this town. I mean, something that would attract people to want to move here. So it's kind of funny that McDonald's is pretty much the highest paying job in this town. I'm serious. $17 an hour, that's pretty good to flip some burgers. And there's nothing wrong with that, but
that's more than what the substitute teachers are getting paid.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So those are my two main topics.
Okay, we'll let you reserve one more later if you feel like it. Okay, Lisa, you're next.
So like Ray said, I think the school is fundamentally important, and we really do need to have some communication about why it's not open. Jobs, absolutely. We need to bring in some larger companies. And so I'm going to want to have a discussion with the BLM. I'm going to want to figure out why we can't get the land that we need and why we can't get these businesses to come in. And, you know, because there's businesses that'll come in and they'll start building housing. But there's so much red tape with our current leadership that they don't come. And so I want to figure out ways that we can cut some of that red tape and bring in some businesses and bring in some really good paying jobs to where when someone grows up here through our school system, they'll want to stay here because there's a good opportunity for them and their families. But right now, there's not. And I'll reserve my third one for later too.
Something positive?
Well, what would you like to see on the agenda when you first sit in as a council member? Three things that you want to see.
I would like to see our police officers enforcing our parks, our streets, our children that are living in vans. I'd like to see them more involved in the community for the best, not just pulling over people for tickets. I'd like to see them patrolling areas. That's what I would like to see, and I think that would be one of the first things that I would bring up in a town. You know, if I were to be elected in town council, is if we can involve. I really support our police officers. We got some great guys. We got a great chief. We got, you know, we just got the lady in, you know, for the sergeant. I think she's a sergeant. But you know what? It's like we have a wonderful crew. But we need to be able to talk to them. And one of the reasons that we do have, I shouldn't say anything, I gotta say positive, right? Let's keep QUARTZSITE open 5 days a week. This 4 days a week baloney, it's not working for us. We need accountability, like I said, people to be able to be doing their job when they're supposed to, so that we can talk to them, the community can talk to their people, to the police officers. I talk to them every time I see them. They're nice guys. Should all get to know them. Circulate.
Okay, that'll drive on to our next question, which is policy. So in Arizona, councils usually set the policy, and then you have management that executes the policy. So what are some of the policies that you'd like to see changed within the town?
First policy I'd like to see changed is if you work here, you live here. But a little story, when I worked for Wilcox Department of Public Safety, this was in '97, me and my wife and my kids lived in, I had one son at that time, we lived in town. And there wasn't a lot of housing opportunities, so we found a brand new double wide 2 miles out of city limits. And I kid you not, the red tape that I had to go through to get permission from the department, from the council, to just move 2 miles out of town. And here we have, people using vehicles to go to Blythe, recently to Parker. Who foots the bill for all that maintenance, fuel, everything else?
You do.
We do.
Yeah, right.
Every one of us. That's got to change. So.
Okay. Lisa?
Yeah, what he said. Also, I really want to see our code enforcement be more fair. There's a lot of people in town that want to do something and they just get hammered with code enforcement. I mean, running for town council, when I was trying to find the right candidate instead of being the candidate, I got that a lot. I got from so many business owners that they don't want code enforcement coming and their businesses being closed down just because they want to run for town council, because why, right? We should have really good leadership on town council. And businesses that aren't liked by certain people have a really hard time getting their permits, getting their codes. Part of that's a 4-day work week, and part of that's just, we're gonna put you off until you go away.
Okay, next.
What I would like to see is somebody in this town do something about children that are living in vans. We have a family that's living out there in a van. Today was 107, 104, 2 children, a mom, 2 dogs and a cat. I have a timeline of 2 years now. I've tried to help this woman. I've tried to encourage her. Just short of CPS, but I thought that maybe me talking to our community people, that we can get together and do something about this. But they said that it's a never-ending story, or it's a problem that they can't handle because it's a government issue that we're not supposed to supposedly harass or talk to these people, or to get them to move into a proper place to live, to raise these children. But to me, being a nurse of pediatrics for 30 years, this is child abuse, child endangerment. This is abusing your children to live like this. These kids, when they go take a bath, they're at the splash pad. Last year, the little girl was taken away to the emergency room for heat exhaustion. Now, how far do we have to go? Do we have to wait until something tragic happens before any of us in the police department, in social service, anything to help these children? This mother refuses to take advice. She refuses to take help except for money. I've offered her, to help her fill out her application for the House Section 8. I just think that we need more encouragement from the town council, from the police department, from any department that we have to encourage this mom that what she's doing is endangering these children. That's what I would like to see.
Okay, thank you. Now, as a prospective council member, there's any number of committees that you can be appointed to. Committees at WACOG, which is the Western Arizona Council of Governments. There's committees at the state level. There's committees at the county level. What are some of the committees that you would like to sit on to represent QUARTZSITE?
I know the committee's already taken by Star, but the law enforcement committee, I think I would be very appropriate for. I've got 13 years of law enforcement experience. Anything that helps with dealing with children, but to go back to what Melody was saying earlier, we need a community resource officer. When I was in law enforcement, we called them Officer Friend. They were the ones that went out and talked to the community, did bicycle rodeos for the kids, good things. But yeah, we definitely need something like that. I understand that we don't have very many officers to begin with, small town, 2,500 people, so, but yeah.
I'm not completely familiar with what the committee would be, but any committee related to the health of a community, I would definitely want to be on that committee, because the health of a community is, the health of the community has been my whole life. And so I really want to see people feel better and live better. I don't know what committee that would necessarily be, but I would definitely thrive in that environment.
Thank you.
The committee that I would like to be on would be the committee that you're on. The Parks and Beautification. I have this love for dogs and cats and rattlesnakes and tigers. And I think that being on this committee that's what I would like to do.
You didn't say anything about the honeybees.
I have a lot of bees where I live.
Yeah. Okay, next question is, there's a lot of stuff that we need as a community that requires state level involvement, like either talking with the state agencies, talking to the governor, talking to the state legislator. What are some of the issues that you would, if you happen to run into them as a council member, what would you tell them that QUARTZSITE needs?
I think a lot of those issues have already been addressed with the state representatives. The BLM land, that has to open up. We have to have room for growth. As far as state levels, that's pretty much what I'm seeing.
Okay.
What he said. He keeps taking all my good answers. I would want to have conversations about securing our water, and I would absolutely be in stark defense of any data centers coming into this area, because I know the destruction that they've done, and if you're not aware of the data centers, they try to make it out as well, we all need this for AI, and we like using AI. And this is just exactly the same way that they presented all of our environmental laws that they were trying to pass, the electric cars. So they put it on the people. Oh, it's all your fault, it's your usage. It's not our usage. What they want those data centers for is surveillance. And we don't want to be a surveilled community, we don't want to be a surveilled state or nation. And so I would fight that adamantly and fight for our community to never ever see one of those.
Okay, thank you.
to see a tiny house community. Instead of using all this BLM land for big, huge travel center, I'd like to see a tiny house community so that we can help some of these vets that do need housing, some of these people that have been de-housed from 88 shades that their house is burnt down, their trailers are burnt down, that they have a place to go to. And who doesn't like to live in a little tiny house now? You know, if you're one or two people and a dog or a cat, I think that would be really neat to have here in QUARTZSITE. Lots of employees too for jobs that are, you know.
Okay, let's talk about the winter. So most of your constituents here live here. So how do you plan to support our winter visitors and our vendors that come in here every winter?
I myself, I love it when the, lack of a better word, snowbirds show up. I mean, it's awesome to see that many people in this little town. Not as many as there used to be, but granted. From what I've been told, and I don't know this for sure, but from what I've been told is that there's been so many regulations put on the vendors that they don't want to come here anymore. What those regulations are, I don't know, and no one would go into great detail with me. But if there are strict regulations like that, they need to be loosened. I mean, the vendors, the snowbirds, for lack of better words, the hippies, that's what made QUARTZSITE. So, and I think we've somewhat lost some of that identity over the years. So.
Once I'm on town council, I would support the winter visitors probably first and foremost by getting anybody off of any boards who really hates winter visitors, because our town really exists because of winter visitors. And if nothing else, the tax burden on us is heavily, heavily decreased by those winter visitors. And so we need to make it easier for vendors to come in here and do business. And we need to make it easier for the vendors to pay their taxes. You know, like they say, oh, well, you know, we got to do this. Well, how many meetings do you have with them? How many opportunities do you have to just show them, oh, it's a real easy process. This is all you have to do. You fill out this form. But our town is closed the 3 busies, you know, the 3 days that you have to come visit us, we're closed. So I would push for the town to be open to helping the vendors get more set up more quickly. And I would like it to be more of a welcoming community for the winter visitors. You know, I think it's kind of turned into a hostile environment with some of our leadership here for people that are coming in for the winter.
I think that I'd be the perfect person to be a liaison for that 5th day that no one's there to take those permits and that money and that licensing. That's why we need to be open 5 days a week, because we're losing money for this community. You can make that much more money, that much more income if we had 5 days a week. And if not 5 days a week, have a person that's going to be there when you're not there. Liaison, I'll do it.
Okay, you brought up a good point, money. So let's talk a little bit about the budget. And as you know, we get our revenues from sales tax and grants, and there's some shared revenue funds like HERF funds, which we use for roads and things of that nature. So what are some things that you'd like to see either included or excluded from our current municipal budget?
To be honest, I'm not real familiar with the budget. I don't really have a lot of access to that. As I stated earlier, I'm new to this. So it's, if elected, it's going to kind of be one of those learn on the job. So.
I would like to see more money allocated for our parks. I would like to see more money allocated for, what's the word? I would like to see money reduced from our management, our the staffing in general. I think I think it does not cost more money, or it should not cost more money to run a town this size that does grow in the winter than it does Lake Havasu City. And right now, we are spending more on our town management than Lake Havasu City. And that's just not right.
Okay, thank you.
That's a hard one. Let me see. The budget. I attended 2 of the budget meetings. I thought the budget wasn't supposed to be passed until July, finally.
Yes, you'll be passing a budget every year as a council member.
Okay, so this was a meeting of people coming up and saying, the departments stating that this is what they need in their budget, why it should go up higher, why it should, it's going to stay the same. And my concerns are, if I'm not mistaken, they said that the budget doesn't get a final pass until July. I could be wrong, somebody can correct me, okay? Now, my concern is that, is the roads, okay? The roads. We had fiber optics come through our roads, and basically their machinery tore up our roads. And nothing's I haven't seen anything being done about it. Now, I did question Ferguson about it, and I asked him if there's anybody following, like who's the guy? Matt Meda, what's his? Anyway, the guy that handles the roads and all the stuff that's going on. And if he's watching these guys to see if they're going to repair the roads on what they've damaged.
His name's Emmett.
Emmett, okay, Emmett. Okay, so another thing, so the roads was one of the issues that I was concerned about, because I live on Quail Trail, and they have damaged the street there, okay? Now, this new, Emmett came up with this new resurfacing material to redo the streets of QUARTZSITE, and he said that 72 and 95, they got this new resurfacing, and it's just beautiful, and it works, and it's just great. And so, if I'm not mistaken, one of the town council members said, well, are you going to test it out? And he said, yes, we're going to test it out on the arroyos. Now, if I live by the arroyos. The Royals don't even have, they only have 18 houses, because I got videotape, and their streets don't even have houses on it, and they got brand new streets. Why would you test the product on these streets when they're brand new? When there's other streets in our community that can test this where there's traffic, okay? Now, this material, I don't think this company's doing it for free. They were there for 3 days putting this new material down. Now, if this cost us, how did this get into our budget to pay for this? That's what my concern's about. How do we, if the budget's not passed, how come things are already happening before the budget passes? That's one of my concerns, and I'm not sure if I'm talking out of line, or if I shouldn't be speaking about it, or, it won't get me elected, but it's one of my concerns.
Okay, we're now going to move over to the audience for questions. Now, keep in mind, make a question, and we're going to focus on the policy issues and the decisions that our candidates are going to make. So, who has the first question? You, sir. Please state your name.
Yes, Sonny. Hi, I'm Sonny. I've been in QUARTZSITE for 8 or 9 years. This is gonna be kind of heavy, I'll try to keep it short, and it's not to offend anybody. The one candidate had talked about transparency, and or I think maybe more than one, and the lack of transparency, and kind of keeping the town in the dark, and to where, you know, like with the budget on this stuff and this and that. You know, living here, I've seen a lot of crazy stuff. I'll just bring it up. Like there was a shooting at the Pilot gas station. You know, about, was it like 3 years ago? Todd Minshall's body was found out in the desert, and you know, the year after, like a young, I think he was like 9 years old, got hit and run over by a semi during the season. And there's all these crazy things that are going on, and there's never any news. There's like no news at all whatsoever. There's no access to like what is going on. I have personally, because of the Todd Minshall incident, it completely destroyed my life temporarily, and I have had no respite. Like there's been that, and like I don't understand why if there's potentially a murderer walking free in this town, that nobody would care and go to the town council and ask like what is going on with that person whose body was found dead. Did they find out if it was a homicide or a suicide? And I actually just looked it up, and it's still listed under as a suspicious death. But my main point is we really need news so that people in this town can know what's going on, and there's transparency with all the local government. Thank you. Thank you.
I myself think you just answered your own question. There needs to be some kind of press release from the investigating agency, which is the police department. It's done everywhere. Parker PD does it, Craig does it, all agencies do it. And you're right, I've never seen one here either.
Once on town council, I think I will have a better relationship with the police department. Switching hats, as the Patriots Free Press, have tried to have conversations with the police department and have some of those articles available in the paper. And with I guess we have a new chief now, and I haven't met with the new chief, but with our previous chief, I got crickets. So I think on town council, I will have a strong voice to say, what's the story on this? And why is it not being public? And not only would it be on some kind of news source, I think it should be discussed in town council meetings, in the manager's meeting. We should all be able to go to the town manager and say, what about this murder in the desert? What about this shooting at the Pilot? What are you doing about it? He's in charge of the police department. Why aren't you forcing the police department to do their job?
That brings me back to when I said that we need to have more police officers just making rounds. The bathroom that is at the splash pad, I just heard today that there's dog feces in the entryway. You know, there's the bathrooms that are in the park, in the dog park, are disgusting. And that I saw on Facebook, and that I went and checked out myself. But you know, one thing that I think that we really need is we need more lights on our street lights. We have so many dark streets. They are so dangerous. You can't even see kids that are running around. We need more street lights.
Yeah, a couple points I'd like to make on transparency. I've said this many times. I think sometimes I sound like a shrill for the council, but everything is recorded. It's on the internet. The only thing that is not recorded on the internet is the town manager's meeting, which I recommend. I think it's excellent. I was there you were there too. Jim answers questions, and he does work hard. So as far as transparency goes, yes. As far as the budget goes, go look it up. It's all, there's page after page after page. Every little I is dotted and every T is crossed. The information is there. You just have to look for it. And I'm not 100% happy with QUARTZSITE. There's problems here, yes. But for the most part, I think it's a great little town. We do have tiny homes here, it's called RV parks. And I would like to see more, a little more respect for the RV parks. Is one of the things with the town. In fact, I have my t-shirt on tonight. And the other thing, as far as discussing anything, when you bring it up at the beginning of the council meeting, there's a call to the public. You can discuss anything at that time unless it's on an agenda. If it's on the agenda, then you discuss it then.
It's a question time, not a report, Sally.
Yes.
I'm asking you a question, you don't want me to report.
Well, what I'm saying is okay, I guess nobody wants to hear the truth then. Because they don't discuss it, then they can't.
All right, who has the next question? Oh, there in the back.
You're going to get away. Thank you all for running to begin with. Now the question I have, we got something going on right now. They're bringing in a motor oil recycle business. And we should have more of a voice in it, whether we want it or not. QUARTZSITE's average age is 69. A lot of people with respiratory problems, heart problems. Now they put in for a permit to go above what the limit was on their emissions. And that's fine, you can filter it and all that. But the one thing they can't control is the wind. And the wind only blows in QUARTZSITE 364 days a year. You got to disrespect. As council members, what would you do to prevent a business like that from coming into our town? We don't need no pollutants. We get enough from the wind with the desert dirt. We don't need chemicals in our air. And from one day to the next, you don't know if it's going to blow over this way, that way, straight through town, or down south.
I think that they should allow the residents to have more time to put in their letters of concern, first of all, and not spring it on them 2 days before. And then if this company has been trying to come in here and made an offer a year ago, everyone should have known about it. Okay? I think our seniors are very vulnerable to COPD, to cancers, to emphysema, all of the above, and they should have been known about it because this particles in the air is very damaging to their health.
So I completely agree. One thing that I'm very concerned about is that the owner of the company is on video saying that 2 years ago I met with Jim Ferguson and the code compliance officer, Tracy, and then he said that he met with them 2 years ago and again a year ago, and then Jim Ferguson's on video saying, well, I only found out about this on Wednesday.
Nice.
And that's why you don't know about it, because I only just found out about it. So who's lying?
Yeah.
So I would have, had I been aware of it, I would have reached out to the community immediately and said, no, we need to have a town hall meeting about this, and you need to meet with everyone who wants to speak with you before we're even going to consider a project like this in our community.
I concur.
And to go a little bit further with that, there's one out of Parker South already. It's a fuel refinery place. I know that they talked about the air pollutants and people have concerns with that, but you also have the possibility of explosions. You have the possibility of seepage into the ground. So, yeah, they're huge concerns. Yes.
Next question.
Okay, so I have a question because when you guys were talking, I didn't realize that you had this problem about with the vendor permits. I just looked it up and people can download the form, but they have to go take it in person to get their, this seems a little pre-internet. Is there is there a reason why any of you wouldn't try to put this on your website so people could pay for their vendor fee online, and they could just print it themselves and have that? And to improve this process for other things, like in Bullhead, we have business license you can do online. The county is doing, building submissions and all of those different things. Do you feel like when you're on council, you should use technology more to improve the lives of your constituents?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, we really need to get up to the modern age of ease.
Minus the data centers.
Okay, my question is the RV parks and code enforcement. I live in ADA shades. I've seen homes be 12 inches apart, sometimes 6 inches apart. And code enforcement started coming around. And for example, they went to Patty's Propane. We had that very bad accident there where a gentleman's propane tank tipped over in his van and he pulled up. When he opened the door, it went, Patty's Propane, that's a huge tank, right next to where the vehicles pull up. And right on the other side of it is a home, an RV. So code enforcement never went back to follow up with them. They've been into my park, and then as far as I know, there was no follow-up. So I had to ask for the public record, and it was very skimpy. And I thought, really? And now that we have the fires, there's more attention. So I advocate for people in RV parks, and I want them to be, aware of the first phone call is me, because I can narrow it down. And we have unlawful ousters. They get a 5-day eviction notice, and they think they have to be gone in 5 days. They don't understand the whole process. So we have a lot of education to do. I want to keep it safe and affordable. I want codes enforced. Where would you stand on that?
So I've actually given this a lot of thought. I think that code enforcement has been so preoccupied dealing with codes of residents and coming down on the residents that they don't like, the businesses that they don't like, and the churches. And if code enforcement was actually just out there doing their job, keeping codes up, because those are important codes. Having too much trash or perceived trash, one man's junk is another man's treasure, that's not hurting anyone. What's hurting people is houses burning out because codes aren't being enforced. And I think that code enforcement needs to hold the managers of these parks, the owners of these parks accountable. And until we're keeping them accountable, we're going to continue to have the same problems, because there's not enough code enforcement to go to every single RV and every single RV park. What we need is code enforcement saying, hey, your park isn't up to snuff and you need to bring it up to snuff. No.
And I'll go one step further on that. I also live in a park, and I've gone over to people's houses, and I see space heaters plugged in on power strips and window unit AC. That's where a lot of the fires are coming from. It's overloading those 15 amp travel trailer circuits. They're not built for them. And I try to tell people, don't do it, don't do it. So I don't know if the fire department has anybody available to do education on that, but that's an idea as well.
I don't know anything about it. Code enforcement, all I know is that they're like a little bit out of control right now as far as doing what they're supposed to be doing.
As I was thinking of the question, I came across this quote from Groucho Marx, and it's, "Politics is the art of looking for trouble, finding it everywhere, diagnosing it incorrectly, and applying the wrong remedies." we're kind of hoping it'll be different. My question is, I got two questions. Our local courts, you know, it's a real problem. Some of you have sat in on my trials. What can we do to unscrew this problem? We've got nepotism going on. We've got Jim Ferguson saying, you can take it to court, you're going to lose. Of course you're going to lose. Those guys are there, supporting the politicians. Got any ideas on how we can fix this? And then I got another follow-up.
And I'm going to go ahead and address that because I was one of the ones that sat in on Mike's hearings. Like I said, I worked in law enforcement for a long time, and a case of that magnitude, I've never ever seen a non-law trained judge sit in on. That's something that I feel, because of the liability for the town, that's something that probably should have gone through the Superior Court or one of the other courts. So.
And with the old and with the new, it's stale right now. The board right now it's stale. There's just too many blasé people that are actually all they're really talking about is their other business that they own, and that's like free advertisement when you're working for the board, and it's just not right. You're supposed to be putting all your attention into you guys, you people, not into your personal business. Fundo se dice en español, el dinero en el pocket. I speak fluent Spanish, so I will be talking to our Spanish constituents also.
Okay. Second question is, are you guys running against anyone?
Yes, we are. There's two other candidates, Linda Goldberg, who's been in there for 8-10 years, at least as long as the town manager's been around, and Gary Swinza, who's a pastor at the Assembly of God Church.
And where are they?
Not here. They were invited a lot of times.
My point taken.
Well, Gary's celebrating his 50th anniversary right now.
That's no excuse.
Okay, we had a question up here. There's somebody had a question up here? Okay, any other questions right there?
I'm trying to think how to word it. I want you to figure it out.
One of the things that I've wrestled with being a resident of town and we've not seemed to address a great deal is having decent medical care facilities in our town. And there's not a great deal of it available. Is there anything that the town council can do to encourage either La Paz Regional or independent? I know the one doctor I went to has changed hands. The office has changed hands like 3 times in 3 years. But to get or improve medical care for the residents here, not just the summer people, also the summer people. But anyway, is there anything town council can do to address what's going on there?
I think that the town council can advocate for it, but I'm going to be real honest with you. When I lived in Parker, the medical care that we got there was nowhere near as good as what you get down here at the clinic. That's just my thoughts. I know that something was in the works with Desert Sanita to have the full-blown clinic here, which I know the guy who was actually in charge of Desert Sanita, and in my opinion, he did that as revenge. He came to QUARTZSITE, talked to the council, got everything going, tried to, as revenge to La Paz, because La Paz wouldn't buy into it. So.
Yeah, I don't know how much power we'll actually have on town council to to get healthcare improved here. But what I do know is that if there is an alternative healthcare clinic, I would push the town leadership to not fight against it. Not that I'm speaking from a lot of personal experience, but I'm speaking from a lot of personal experience. And I think that we could more easily work with La Paz County or some other medical facility to improve the services that are here if it was a more friendly environment for businesses to be here.
I agree with what you said.
I have something to say. La Paz Regional Hospital is working on having a larger facility in QUARTZSITE with a lot of specialty doctors that they are going to be hiring in, and they've already got, they're going to have a bigger physical therapy than what they've got right now. They've got the CAT scan, they've got a lot of different things that they are preparing and getting ready to start having here in QUARTZSITE. So.
And who are you again?
I'm Linda Cushman.
The moderator's wife.
And she serves on the board of the La Paz Regional Hospital.
Urgent care.
So
We have urgent care coming. There's all this that is being planned, and they've already got the space, so it's going to be built. It's just everything getting together. It takes a little bit more time, but we've got that going. So they're taking care of us in QUARTZSITE to make sure we have plenty of specialty doctors, all the proper MRIs, CAT scans, physical therapy, all pharmacy, a better, bigger pharmacy.
Yay.
So all this is happening.
all right, I'm going to execute some moderator privilege here. The La Paz Regional Hospital is self-funded through insurance. It is underneath a hospital district, and the hospital district is like any other special election district, school district, fire district, in that they can impose a property tax levy. That has only been done a very few times since the hospital was started back in, I think, 1972. So a larger question for the community at large is, do you want to have another property tax levy on your property tax to support more health care, or are you happy with the limitations that we have right now? Because right now it's a critical access hospital, which means there are certain limitations on what it can do, but right now all they're funded on is what either patients pay out of pocket or through the insurance systems. So again, we're not going to decide that here tonight, but that's just some things we need to think about as a community. So what I think we'll do there, is there any other question? We'll go to the, we'll do media next. We have one question back here, and then we'll let the media have a roll at it.
One thing this town does not have, and I don't know what you guys could do as council members and what the president council could do, but we really need a veterinarian here in this town. There's a lot of feral cats in this town that are dying, suffering in the heat. A lot of people have pets that they have to go to Havasu or Yuma or Blythe, and Blythe is always busy, you can never get in. What could you do to entice a veterinarian to come to this town, if you could do anything?
I'm not real sure that anything can be done. Parker also deals with the same situation. They had a young lady that born and raised in Parker, went to school, and she went to veterinary school, and she ended up going elsewhere. So I don't know if there's anything that the council themselves can do.
Again, I think it comes down to making it a more business-friendly place for someone to come in and work here. And, you know, if we had a better living situation, if we had more housing available, we could get a family to come in here. But, you know, our town manager hasn't been able to find a house for himself.
Okay, we're going to turn it over to our media representatives.
All right, speaking of the town manager, as we know, the town manager has been here since 2016, so we're at 2026. So he's had 10 years of being in a position to make changes. There's also a council member that's running for re-election, who's been in, like Lisa pointed out, about the same amount of time. So what we have to look at, and I agree, the town is on, we are shrinking. I've been here personally since 2008. 2018, my dad came in 2004, and we have seen a constant decline. So under the current leadership, and even under the current leadership of the council member, Linda Goldberg, we've seen a constant decline. So obviously if we want more of the decline, we vote for them. If you get elected, will you move to remove Jim Ferguson as town manager and replace him with another town manager who will bring us to the place that we need to go?
Absolutely.
As far as I know, they extended his contract not too long ago. But as soon as that contract could either be broken or he could be replaced, I would certainly vote to open it up to different management. Absolutely.
And I'm going to be the third one to agree with everything they both just said.
I think he has an assistant, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, we have
I'm
a
sure that she does most of the
six-figure,
work.
he has a six-figure paid assistant.
Real quick, our town manager doesn't live here, but he rents here. Do you guys know who he rents from?
The mayor.
The mayor.
Yeah.
So that $1,000 a month that our illustrious council voted, right? It goes direct what?
He doesn't rent for the mayor. I know who his landlord is, but it's not the mayor.
It's not the mayor?
It's not the mayor, I swear.
It's next door to the main yard.
Okay, thank you.
That's very good to know.
Okay, so media question?
I'll just make a statement.
Okay.
On the schools, it's a school district, the council has nothing to do with it.
Right, that's right.
Okay, so Lisa, I don't know how you'll ask a media question if you have one. No? Okay. All right, we'll let each of our candidates close with a 1 minute closing statement on why you should vote for them.
Okay, I think you've heard from all three of us. We all three have very similar views. We want the same things for the town. We want growth. We want things to be right. When I was out getting my petition signed, I asked everybody, are you happy with the town? And they told me no, absolutely not. So I'm going to close by saying, if you're happy with the way the town's being run, don't vote for me. If you would like change and you would like somebody to fight for each and every one of you, you've got three of us that'll do it.
What he said. Yeah, so I am Lisa Bolden, and I do hope that you'll vote for me. I actually hope that you'll vote for all three of us because we stand united up here. We're all friends. We can all have discussions. And I think unless we have some turnover in this town, it's going to remain exactly the way that it is, and it's in decline.
My name is Melody Shep-Bear. Our three names are on the top of the ballot. Vote all three. We're here to save our town, to let it grow and be happy. Turn it over. Happiness, change, we need it.
Okay, big round of applause for our candidates. Thank you very much. You don't all have to leave. We do have some announcements here. On January 8th, from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. at the QUARTZSITE Community Center. That's, what's that?
Early voting.
That's early voting. early voting.
July.
Yeah, July. Yeah, it's been a long day. But the last day to register to vote is June 22nd. June 22nd. And early ballots come out 3 weeks before, so, and you need to drop them off by the June 24th. Is there any other community announcements?
Where could, do they have the voting here in QUARTZSITE, or we have to go to the pond now?
No,
the pond.
It's in here in QUARTZSITE. Community Center. Okay, we just a little bit over 9 o'clock, so you still have some time to meet with the candidates and ask them questions. This is the time to do it. And we'll see you around, and I really appreciate y'all's patience.